Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Radiance Effect podcast, where the goal is to help you shine from the inside out. I'm your host, Brittany Janelle. Y'all, this is the very first episode, and shout out to OM2H Creative Studios, where I'm recording in Houston, Texas. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am. This podcast has truly been a dream of mine for so long, and it's finally coming to life. I'm finally taking a leap, and I can't tell you how proud of myself that I am. But let me be real with you for a moment. Something that I've learned is that when we delay a vision, it never truly goes away. It lingers, waiting for us to take action. Postponing it only delays the purpose and direction of where you're meant to walk in. So, you know what? Get out of your own way. If you've been someone who's been sitting on a dream or a vision, hear me. When God gives you a vision, it's for a reason. Don't let fear, insecurity, or self doubt keep you from stepping into those God sized goals and dreams. That's the commitment that I've made to myself. And along the way, I hope this show encourages you to make the same commitment. Go for it, however that may look and however crazy that may sound to other people. All right, y'all. My birthday is coming up. I'm going to be 31 this year, and I'm so excited about it. I feel like anytime a birthday approaches for me, the first thing I do is I reflect. I reflect on where I'm currently at, and I reflect on where I was in the past. And this year, things are really hitting for me because I think about how challenging the last couple years have been for me, but I also sit back with so much pride and so much confidence because I can't believe that I've grown so much and evolved over the last couple years. So as I had the opportunity to think about that, I said for my first episode, I want to give you guys the 10 most valuable lessons that have shaped my journey, and I hope they can inspire and motivate you to do the same, leading up to 31. Let's get into it. Lesson 1. And this is number 1 for a reason, of course, okay? Because this is something that I've consistently gone back and forth with and tried to work through for so many years. Lesson 1 is to focus less on others' opinions and more on genuine happiness and elevating your life. My first point is I used to seek validation from others before making decisions. And honestly, I find myself still doing it sometimes. Now, don't get me wrong. Getting opinions is not a bad thing, but when you get to a point of always reaching out to people before you make any decisions, that's when I challenge you to push past that. And my next point is other people's opinions don't define you. One difficult lesson that I have personally had to learn over the years is that people are always going to talk and people always judge you. It doesn't matter what you say, what you think, what you do, someone's always going to have something to say. And I've learned that just because someone disagrees, that doesn't mean that should hold you back or silence your voice in hopes to please people. Just move according to the plan and go from there. And that brings me to lesson 2. Never stop growing and never stop evolving. Over the last couple of years, I've really focused on becoming the best version of myself. And it's so funny because my best friend will make this joke and she's like, if you haven't talked to Brittany in 6 months, she's a completely different person, right? Not a situation in which I'm always changing who I am, but I'm always trying to find a way to become better by challenging the way that I think, by shifting how I see myself, and by pushing past my limits. I truly had to make the mindset up that I'm going to always bet on myself. And I've learned that success comes through hardship. It's not about avoiding the struggle, but about staying resilient and finding ways to move through it. The greatest growth is when you become comfortable getting uncomfortable. And I'm going to say that again. You grow the most when you become comfortable getting uncomfortable. I had to realize that if I always stayed in places where I was comfortable, I never would have been able to become the Brittany Janelle that I am today. That brings me to my third point. God's purpose for your life doesn't change based on your circumstances. Trust the process even when it's hard to see the path. And I'm going to repeat that last part one more time. Trust the process even when it's hard to see the path. That's so important because I'll be a testament in saying there's been times when I've been going through my storm, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, God, where are you in this? Right? And it seems so hard to actually think that I'm going to be able to make it through. But that's when I realized that his plans are bigger than ours and it's not up for you to know what's going to happen. choose to be obedient. And even if it's not easy, do it anyway. And to give you an example, moving across the country, because y'all don't know this, but I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I made the decision to move 2 years ago to Houston, Texas. It was not something easy to do, leaving my friends, my family, my job, and everything that I knew to come here. But I just had this deep knowing that God was telling me that's what I need to do. And I can't tell you that it's been the best decision that I've ever been able to make. Releasing my book last year was another leap of faith for me. Y'all, when it comes to being vulnerable, that's not something that's easy. When it comes to telling your deep, dark secrets that other people don't know, right? That's not easy. But I felt like God kept telling me it's what I needed to do. And as soon as I released the book, I can't tell you how many women I've been able to pour into and how many lives I've been able to touch. And that's what it's all about. And that goes back to my lesson about being obedient to God, right? And trusting his plan. You don't have to know the answers. You just got to be obedient. Lesson 4, your energy is contagious. A little story time for y'all. So like I'm sure a lot of other people, right, was raised when it came to whenever I walk into a room, I just make sure that I address everybody, right? Go up, speak to them. Hi, how you doing? How was your weekend? I was even that person who took note into small little details, right? Like maybe even asking them questions about their birthday or some of the personal details, right? And I'm not going to lie. As I would do that and as that energy was not reciprocated, I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to keep coming in here speaking to people if they're not speaking to me. Not the best mindset, but that's the energy that I was starting to give. And it was frustrating. But one day, there was something that happened that changed my whole perspective. Someone came up to me and said, your personality lights up a room and it makes others feel warm and welcome. And that moment really helped me to realize that sometimes the energy that you bring can be so contagious and impact other people to have a warm spirit to allow their light to shine through. So next time you go to work or anywhere really, I want you to think about this. How are you going to show up today? What's going to be the energy that you're going to bring? How are you going to shift the room? Lesson 5. And I can't believe we're halfway through, y'all. Whew, this is going fast. Let go of fear, worry, and anxiety because they were never meant to hold you. Fear can keep you from stepping into your full potential, and anxiety can rob you of peace, causing you to be stuck in the past or overly worrying about what's to come. I'm someone who used to struggle with anxiety pretty bad, right? Because I was always thinking about what's next. I think honestly that's a part of like the perfectionism in me and always trying to be better, right? Thinking about, oh, I forgot to do this. So now I'm anxious over this or wondering how I'm showing up, right? But I became more confident when I gave up control over those outcomes and just learned to take risks even if I was afraid or even if I did make a mistake. When I got to a point in saying that no matter what happens, I'm going to choose to move forward, that's when I truly began to embrace the woman that I was always meant to be. And that's one thing that I want to encourage you on as well, right? Fear and anxiety is something that's always going to try to cripple you and prevent you from becoming the best version of yourself, but it doesn't have to if you allow yourself to just move forward. So lesson 6, prioritize character and morals over mere physical beauty. When you focus on developing strong values in your character, such as honesty, loyalty, compassion, and respect, you build a foundation that can weather any storm because you'll end up going back to the core of who you are. If you ever heard this phrase, it's not on you, it's in you, that is so true. It's interesting because when I took the time to truly get to know myself, it caused me to have a deeper and more meaningful connection, even if they were just platonic relationships. The reason being is because when I started surrounding myself with those who had high values and character, opposed to those who just seemed cool or that I had vibes with, that's when I realized the genuineness of the relationship. And I learned that true beauty is not skin deep. It radiates from within and shines through even the simplest ways to how you treat people and the way that you show up for others, right? So I know society right now is always about how someone looks, right? Putting filters over photos, but that's not real. Show up as your true, authentic, genuine self and focus on what's inside of you opposed to just external beauty. Lesson 7, community matters. Surrounding myself with people who speak life into me, challenge me, pray for me has been such a game changer. I can't tell you how challenging it was making the transition from Michigan to Houston. Everything was different. Culture, food, environment, right? And I felt very, very isolated. When I made that transition, one of the things I was focused on outside of getting to know myself was finding the right type of community to begin surrounding myself with, right? Because life is already hard, but having a community that's going to be able to pick you up when times get hard, to pour back into you as you're pouring into them or whatever it may be, that's so important. Another lesson that I had to learn, especially when it comes to community, is that friendships is not just based on longevity, it's based on quality. I've had many friends who I've only known for a year or two, right? And I can say that I truly have deep connections with those friends opposed to people that I may have met 10, 15 years ago. It's not about the length of time that you've known someone, it's about the overall quality of that relationship. Lesson 8. Self-care, self-love, and positive self-talk are not optional. I truly began focusing on the key areas that made me feel whole. That meant going to therapy, y'all. And I know that's something that's not always talked about as far as going to therapy and talking to people about your problems, right? But that was such a game changer for me. And it helped to heal the parts of me that truly was broken. I also changed the way that I started my day. I used to be someone who, when I would wake up, the first thing I would do is I would hop on social media. And that's no shade to anyone that does that. But I really had to flip the switch and start thinking about what was being poured into me. So I would change my day by reading, listening to audibles or podcasts, and anything that inspired growth and reflection. I also started dating myself, y'all. And being here in a new city, going out to places by yourself as a woman was not something that was common, being honest with you. And sometimes it felt very uncomfortable. But intentionally spending that one-on-one quality time with myself and getting to know who I truly am, that's when I learned to appreciate my presence, to listen to my needs, and to nurture the relationship that I have with myself. It was in those moments and those intentional times that I began to feel more grounded, more complete, and more in tune with the woman that I was becoming. Lesson 9, your worth is not tied to your title or achievement. When I worked for my last company, I was proud to have built a meaningful connection to the BIPOC leadership team. But when I started thinking about leaving the organization and everything that I worked for, it was a huge struggle for me. And the reason being is because I felt like my sense of worth became tied to what I had accomplished within the organization. It was the recognition, it was the relationships, it was the impact that made it that much harder to walk away. That made me think a little bit further, right? That whether your title is husband, wife, mom, dad, coach, whatever it may be, I want you to know that you're worthy of good things just as you are. As you continue to grow and evolve through life, don't forget to think about who you are as a person internally, right? And know that whatever title you have, as it changes over the years, that there's value in who you are. Lesson 10, y'all, I can't believe that we're nearing the end of the first episode. How y'all feel? Because I feel good. Lesson 10 is to cultivate a mindset of gratitude. One of my favorite classes in college was my interpersonal communication classes. I'll never forget an assignment my professor gave us. It stayed with me for over 10 years. And the challenge, have a no complaining day. Now, how crazy does that sound, y'all? To me, when I think about that, I'm like, wow, I really had a whole day where I didn't complain. The goal was simple but powerful. Shift your focus from what's going wrong to what you can be grateful for. Instead of letting small frustrations take over, look for the good. And that mindset stuck with me. I also learned that a bad moment doesn't mean a bad life. When I face adversity now, I try to pause, breathe, and find a way to move through it. That perspective has made all of the difference for me. So the next time someone cuts you off in traffic or your day just feels off, take a moment. Remind yourself that a hard moment does not define your whole life. Choose gratitude and choose to move forward. Yeah, so when I think about the Radiance Effect podcast, it's something that means a lot to me, right? And I truly hope that I don't get emotional as I speak throughout this, but if it happens, it happens, because everything about this podcast is meant to be very, very intentional, right? So even when I was thinking of a name, Radiance to me meant light, right? And one thing that I've always tried to be is be a light to other people, because I've had many moments in life that were dark and heavy, but I've always tried to push past it and be a light. And when I think about effect, it's about how I can impact others with my light. And that's truly where the name came from. And there's a couple other things that you'll notice throughout the process. You're going to notice butterflies. You're going to notice sunflowers, because that to me represents happiness. And when I think about a butterfly, I think about the embrace and going through metamorphosis. And I think about where I started as a person from the beginning to the woman that I've had the opportunity to blossom to become now. And I hope that transcends throughout this process and throughout this season of the Radiance Effect podcast. All right, y'all. That's it. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode for the Radiance Effect podcast. I hope this episode encouraged you to shift your perspective, lean into gratitude, and remember that one heart moment doesn't define your life. It's not about avoiding challenges, but learning how to move through them with grace and purpose. If today's message resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend, leave a review, or connect with me on social media. I love to hear what spoke to you the most. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss an episode. New episodes air every first and third Monday at 7 p.m. Until next time.